Yo, 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 welcome to another edition of the Geeky Bros Podcast. I'm your boy Tactix.
Yo, it is just Darcy here.
And this is Big Geek Umar. How y'all doing today?
Good.
Good, good.
We
How
all
you
are
doing?
wearing very different geeky shirts, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, not one in the same universe.
Yeah.
How
Well,
about-
Umar's got a Spider-Man on, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's Spider-Man insignia.
Yeah, you're the only one that came prepared today.
I came on brand a little bit, but like nonetheless, we all geeky shirting it up, and I think that's appropriate.
Absolutely.
100%.
All right, so shall we jump in to our massively overarching topic for today?
Let's do it.
All right. So for those of you who've been watching for the last week, we have been last week we did a spoiler-free out of the theater reaction for Tactix, and Darcy and I had done a spoiler-free out of the theater reaction a couple days prior. So today we've given y'all a week. We are doing a full-fledged spoiler-filled review. So if you haven't watched Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse,
Or been on the internet.
or been on the internet, y'all, like this entire, like we are basically doing an entire episode on the Spider-Verse in general. This is a Spider-Man centric one. So like we're if you we're going to put a description and timestamps. Sorry, we're going to put timestamps in our description below after the live event, and so like you can click onto our other topics, which are going to be fully reviewing the Across the Spider-Verse, comparing it to the Into the Spider-Verse, and then also doing our predictions for what it's going to be in Beyond the Spider-Verse. And then finally, we're going to be doing ranking for all the Spider-Man properties, like all the Spider-Man films that have been out live action, and also animation. And we're going to rank them from number 1 to, I mean, it's arguable you could say 13, but Darcy has refused to include 3 of them. So like me Tactics made.
First off, Spider-Man's not the name. Second of all, those are crap films, okay? So it is a top 10. Umar,
Okay.
It is a top 10.
Okay, we're doing a top 10. All right, so going to our first topic. Across the Spider-Verse came out last week. This is a sequel to the first one that came out in 2018 called Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is all a loosely based adaptation of the Spider-Verse comic book, which was let me just get this out, in 2014. It was written by Dan Slott and art by Olivier Coipel, who I'm a big fan of. I probably butchered his name. This is finding Peter Parker being like, finding out that there is a Spider-Verse, and like that there are these like villains called the Inheritors, and they're going out and they're killing the Spider-Men of all the Spider-Verses to like give themselves more power. They're like Spider-Man vampires. So the movie franchise didn't do that story, which still was a really good story. Like it did very well, but they decided that they like the idea of a Spider-Verse, and so they're telling their own story. And they decided, instead of focusing on Peter, that the main focus point is going to be the Afro-Latino Miles Morales Spider-Man, and so he is the front and center for those of you who have already seen Into the Spider-Verse. So Across the Spider-Verse was Into the Spider-Verse was meant to be like an independent film, but then studios be like, yo, this made money. This actually made a lot of money, and Sony was like, so can you make another one? And yeah, all right, okay, cool. And they created Across the Spider-Verse, which came out last weekend. So now that we can just go balls to the walls, say whatever we want, and go into the depth of what we took from this film. T, let's start with you, man. What did you love? What didn't you like? And also Yeah, let's go. Let's start with that because we already know your rating.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this film more than I thought I would. And after sitting with it, and kind of really letting it marinate, it's really making me want to go out and buy a PS5 and actually buy the game. especially especially now with like Darcy has talked about it quite a bit, because Darcy, you have the game now too, right?
Well,
Or are you waiting for
I have both of the games. So Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Yeah.
And the new one coming out is called Spider-Man 2. However, I
Gotcha,
will
okay.
say storyline not the same at all. But it is like a different and good take on Miles.
Yeah.
But definitely not Spider-Verse related at all.
No, yeah.
Just in case you were like, oh, I'm
No,
gonna
no,
add more.
No, I figured as much, considering that this, like, it's a different Peter Parker, and they're both still kind of, they coexist in the same universe. But I just remember, like, just seeing it now, like, I remember like the fun of, like, I used to play the video games like on like the original PlayStation, and like just remember like swinging and all that shit. Like that was really a lot of fun.
So much
And
better in this. So much
yeah,
better.
no, I can imagine. So watching this made me reminisce about the old time when I used to play those games. And like now I kind of really, I haven't been a big gamer since like I was in high school, and now it's making me want to like go back and revisit that and enjoy those games again. But back to the movie, yeah, I loved it. The character development with Gwen Stacy, her story arc being more fleshed out was really interesting, and the struggle that she has to endure with like having to reveal to her father that she is Spider-Woman. And I like, usually what I do, and I'm sure you guys do this too, like whenever I watch a movie that I really enjoy, I go back and I watch like YouTube reviews on them, and like
100%,
like people doing deep dives on it, and
100%,
and everything, because I may not always get a chance to like go out and watch it for a second time right away. And so sometimes it's good to watch these videos and kind of like get a glimpse of like what I missed. And so like I was watching a lot of stuff that certain channels had pointed out, like the attention to detail that these movies, like especially the first one and now this one, where there was one part, and I'm sure you guys caught on to this as well, where in Into the Spider-Verse, the first movie, where Miles Morales meets the Spider-Man for the first time, and Spider-Man's his spider sense goes off, and then you could see Miles Morales, the color scheme is like like the same as the Prowler, but then it changes from purple to then red and black, or something like that, right? And it's just it's a callback, or it's basically a note to that was a callback to like what happens at the end, which is a spoiler. But because of the spider being pulled out of the Earth 42 universe and being pulled into Miles's universe, it changed the trajectory of his fate, and he went from being destined to be the Prowler to then being destined to becoming Spider-Man. So I found that to be really interesting, and the attention to detail that they played there. A lot of great moments, a lot of great action scenes, a lot of amazing representations of Spider-Man. I love the line, one of my favorite lines, and it's been circulating around on social media, where he's like, everyone's been telling me how my story is supposed to go. Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. And that's just a gangster line, and like I love it.
A gangster line at a gangster moment.
At a gangster moment, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I really enjoyed about this is that, because you know how like, so there's been talks or complaints about, like, for example, like the Little Mermaid, and how they've changed her from being
the live action.
The live action, yeah. They've changed her from being white, which was what she was in the animated movie, to now being black. And there's been this whole uproar of like, race swapping and all of that stuff. And I find that like there hasn't been that with this. And I mean, there's a big reason because of that. It's not like Miles Morales is Peter Parker. He's his own version of Spider-Man, and the fact that like everyone is embracing him as this Spider-Man, because I know it's hard for people to accept change, especially when it comes to a beloved character like Spider-Man. It was like for like that. This was kind of like the equivalent of like when they did Batman Beyond. When they first came out with Batman Beyond, I was not into it at all. I was like, nah, there's only one.
No
Batman.
one was.
There's only one Batman. But then I gave it a chance like later on. Like I didn't watch it when it first aired, and then I went and revisited it, and I was like, oh man, this is actually really good. And it's the same with this. It's like, you know, part of me was like, okay, he's a black Spider-Man, so I kind of gotta go and like support him, you know what I mean, like part of the people kind of thing. But I was like a little resistant to it because like I grew up on the OG Peter Parker Spider-Man, so I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna be into this new Spider-Man, and I was hooked, man. Like he's a lot different, obviously, in a lot of ways, like, you know, not just the race thing, but like his power level, the way he thinks, and I like the element of him kind of going his own way, just to kind of like bring it back to like his whole thing about like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. That really does show in terms of like from like the suit that he wears. He chooses to be like to wear the black with the red stripe down the center and everything, or down the side, and like just the way that he's kind of learning as he goes. I really enjoyed that and his overall development with this, and I'm sure we're gonna get more of that fleshed out as we go along. But yeah, I mean, overall, like I really enjoyed this film. I was thoroughly entertained. The only thing I would say that I didn't enjoy, I did, but I didn't at the same time, was the ending, like the cliffhanger. Like I just was like, bro, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal if this was like a TV show, and it's like I only have to wait either like next week or like a couple months, and then the next season will come or whatever. But now it's like I gotta wait a year or maybe even longer because of this whole writer's strike. So that's kind of shitty. But that aside, I thought it was a fantastic film. It gave me what I wanted. I went in with like moderate expectations, and they were surpassed, and I had a good time with this, and I'm excited to see where they go with Beyond.
I have two questions. This should be like a pretty easy back-to-back for ET, and I'll ask you, Darcy, as well. Who is your favorite character in this film specifically, and what was your favorite part?
My favorite character, I would have to give it to Hobie. Hobie is he's a G.
Spider-Punk is is on fire right now, like, online.
Yeah, like I didn't think I was gonna like him because he came off as like a very cocky like motherfucker. Like he just comes in, he's like, and I'm just like, who is this clown? Like, what you know what I mean? But then, like, you can kind of see him being like an older brother or big like a mentor to Miles later on, and like the way he kind of looked out for like that moment when like he gets trapped when Miles gets trapped in
the field,
the field or whatever, and then Hobie is just like, it's a brief moment, but Hobie just goes like this, and like I didn't catch it at first, but then like when I was watching like the videos, it was like, oh yeah, he was like signaling, because he mentioned to him at one point, and I think due to the audio issues, that's another thing I didn't like about the movie, the audio issues. But anyway, due to the audio
they're fixing it. They're actually fixing it because enough people complained.
Yeah, I didn't catch the part about what he said about like, don't use your fingertips, use your whole hand. At first, but then I saw like he went like this, signaling to Miles to kind of use his whole palm or whatever, and I found that to be really cool. And then, you know, him reconfiguring the watch, the device, to give to Gwen Stacy for them to go back and into a different universe to go find Miles, I thought was really cool. So yeah, I'd have to say Spider-Punk was pretty dope, and then the Indian Spider-Man was hilarious. I loved him. he was hella jokes, man. I really enjoyed him. I'd love to see more of him. And yeah, there's just so much cultural representation here. You just can't help but appreciate like everything they've done. Like they even like not only is there cultural representation, you know, the whole trans community thing is a big deal right now. And then like Gwen Stacy has like there's like a poster that she has of like so this movie is very inclusive for everybody, you know what I mean? Like say what you will about whatever, but you know the fact that they're kind of thinking in that regard and trying to be as inclusive as possible. They got the Indian Spider-Man in here as well, which I thought was a fantastic touch. So yeah, a lot of great moments.
And your favorite part was
favorite part, man, there's a lot of good parts, man.
No, it was tough for me to figure mine out.
I'd have to say that the cameo between the cameo of Child Gambino was a great moment. I've been a fan of this guy for years. Darcy knows. So
yep.
Yeah.
Yo, T, you saw the video we sent you about like the guy breaking it down for how Childish Gambino.
Bro,
like,
I've heard, you know how many times I've listened to that song where he references, he has a line where he's like, and I think the guy says it in the video. He's like, couldn't see me as Spider-Man, but now I'm spitting venom. Like, I remember hearing that for the first time, and I was like, and there's another line that he says. He's like, something. He's like quoting Lil Wayne. He's like, something, fire for fireman. Baby, I'm your hero, Donald for Spider-Man or something like that. Because this is when the Twitter campaign was running, and I was like, oh shit. But then I didn't realize that this was like he's the reason why Miles Morales is even a thing, which I like. You got to respect that. And then on top of that, he did the voice of Miles Morales in the Ultimate Spider-Man. And then you know he was in Homecoming as well, not the Prowler at that time, but
technically is the Prowler, but he wasn't the Prowler.
Yeah. So that was cool. So it's like this man, like he planted a seed, and then it like manifested tenfold. So yeah, I give him props for that. So that was dope. That was probably one of my favorite moments.
That was being next to you. That was I think in the film that was like those were the only two times you actually had like a very like big reaction, and that was one of them. Like it was when he was like, you're like, yo, what? And you're just like,
yeah, that was dope. And then seeing all the Spider-Man chase Miles, that was really cool. Like you got the classic retro Spider-Man, which was hilarious because it's like he swung at him, but he missed him because he's only 2D. I was like, oh, okay, that's dope. Yeah, so there was a lot of really cool and funny moments there. It was really cool to see all the different kind of Spider-Man, and then like where Miguel is like, he's like, stop Spider-Man, and they all point. He's like, you.
Yeah, they had to do that. No, Miles turns around. He's like sitting on his back.
He's like.
Yeah. So yeah, that was cool. And then the Spot character, he grew on me. Like we haven't seen him in his like badassery yet, but like that end shot, like, and I have I'll show
an
image of it when you guys start talking. But yeah, there's that last shot of him where he like turns all black and he's like flying up. I was like, yo, okay. No more of the jokes. Let's get to the serious shit. I want to see this guy fuck some shit up, man. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I would say my rating is still the same, but yeah, I loved it. I had a really good time with it. I'd be willing to see it again, and that's kind of how I usually rank my movies, whether or not they have rewatchability, especially like immediately. And I'm not talking like 6 months go by and then you go and you're like, oh, I haven't seen this in a while. I'll watch it again. Like I would watch this again tonight. So. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
I just want to pull up what Chris Tari put up about going back to what you're saying about Indian Spider-Man. Chris is like, and because of this movie, I now know chai means tea. That PSA was very well done.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
I just know I'm gonna struggle at Tim Hortons at some point. Can I just get a chai? What? Chai tea? No, just chai. But in that vein, I could be like, can I get a green chai? Can I get an English breakfast chai? It just messes with me so hard.
All right, Darcy, how about you, man? Give us your review of Across the Spider-Verse.
I mean, it's an amazing film. So much that like everybody on TikTok has been talking about it. I mean, everyone's watching the film on TikTok right now because they're clipping the whole damn thing. I mean, I'm trying to think of all the things to say that the Tactix hasn't just said. There's things I love about this film is the level of detail, the level of planning, how much it pulls, like how much there was in the first film that we didn't know was in the first film until we saw the second film. And I'm so interested to see what happens in the third film that makes you go, and that was in the first and second film that was planned out for the third film. Yeah, like these people knew what they were planning and executing on it. This moment here that you have on frame is just interesting. I loved it because it was like you did feel the vibes with them, but at the same time, or not the same time, but the thing that was super interesting was the perspective. Like the whole upside down, and yet I don't know what it is about that. It just felt so, I don't know, like just different and interesting.
I was watching a video where someone was saying like this was one of their favorite parts as well because it showed that all the spider people see the world a different way from everybody else.
Yeah. I'm going to actually get into something that I saw that was really, really interesting. Was a conversation related to Gwen and when she met Miles's parents. And there was like
I've been hearing a lot about that too. Yeah.
And there was interesting because it was like they were showing privilege, and yet at the same time there's also probably a dimension to that privilege that comes from her being from a different dimension as well. But it's the fact that she addressed his mother and father like first name which was just like wrong.
You don't do that
on so many levels. I don't know what culture you from. If you from a different universe, so maybe that's what they do there. Okay, but yeah, it was just you. It was like it showed a level of that mom's reaction. Like, okay, first name. Like that's literally as she's saying.
Actually, I think that was when he was like, whatever. That was the whatever moment. Yeah, and if I said whatever to my mom, that would be a response.
Yeah, I mean, straight up.
But they reference his friend using the first name here.
Yeah. It's there's just something in the dynamic of that interaction that was just so sloppy on Gwen's part, and it made it super awkward and uncomfortable in a way of privilege and a way of just like you're super excited for your parents to meet a girl and that girl be fucking up. And you're just like, oh. But I also wonder if that means that we're going to get something different in the second film where Gwen has interactions with the parents, or at least one parent. And I had to say that. And the dynamic is so different and it's recognizable, like both in the characters and for the audience. Going into just like general stuff with this film, like for instance, I was just watching. I was just like, I just want to talk about all these details because like the whole film is just amazing. But there's all these like micro details. For instance, so we knew in the first film they came up with a new animation technique, right? Where typically animation is animated on ones, which means every frame there's something new happening, right?
Right.
And then what they did with Miles is that they started doing animation on twos, right? Where every other frame he would be moving to show that he is not moving at the same. He's not in sync with the rest of the Spider people, being Spider-Man and Gwen at this point. And so there was a difference in that animation. But when they brought in Spider-Punk, they wanted to show that he's against the establishment and he's animated on threes. So he has an animation, skip 2 frames, then has an animation. So and if you know anything about like, for instance, like music has this concept where most music is done on an even number, right? Most music is done on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, right?
And dance as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, most all of it comes from it. Then you will have music that's like rock music, which ironically comes at this, which is done in 3/4 time, right? 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. It's got a different feeling to it, right? Which
Yeah.
also resonates with that. No one, I don't pick up quite on that because like he's in actually a genre of music that might be at a different time signature depending on what he likes. But when you have a 3 count running up against something that's even, it feels very weird. Like it feels very contrary to it because it will consistently not line up, right? If you had something that's going like every 2 and 1, it will line up then not line up, line up then not line up, line up then not line up. But this will be like it'll line up then take a while to line up again, then take a even longer time. It'll just feel very weird, which really goes to the idea that he doesn't follow with the norm of anybody. And it's such a subtle thing that really stands out. Plus, when Tactix, when you're talking about how much you like this character, I love the moment where they go, man, he's like, you're even cooler without the mask, and he's like, I was always this cool. I'm like, like yeah, you are. Plus, you know, interesting. So we all heard, and we talked about on the prior podcast that Indian Spider-Man. What is that the right term?
Yeah, Indian Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or Spider-Man in India or something like that.
Yeah, I couldn't remember was it Spider-Man India or Indian Spider-Man. I couldn't remember which the right way to phrase that. So he had talked about how they went to him and had him, you know, work on the dialogue so it was better and more representative.
Yeah.
But I didn't also know that they did the same thing with Spider-Punk. That they went to that
Really?
actor and had him work out and riff on figuring out, because they were really into the English slang and or not slang, but like the dialect of it, and have him in a very specific portion he's supposed to be from. And ironically, the actor here, Daniel Kaluuya.
I'm gonna say Kaluuya. Yeah. I love him. I'm actually starting to really love him.
Ironically, he's actually from the part of England where punk was originated. So he's naturally closer to it. But they had him really work on what that accent was and what kind of way he would speak and what would be more natural. So a lot of that just going to the people and saying like, what we want to get this right. What do we got to do for this, right? I also just saw a clip of Oscar Isaac saying that he had only one thing he wanted to do to Miguel to make Miguel different. He didn't want him to come across as just the broody Batman version of Spider-Man. So he wanted to have one character trait to make him different and make him stand out. And the character trait that he decided to focus on, it's actually just genius. It's that he's a lot less funny than the rest of all the other Spider-Man, which makes it really funny because Spider-Man are always known to be funny, and he's just not funny. He's actually like he's trying to be like not even trying to be funny, but he's just like even if he just tries, you know he'd fail at it. He uses his demeanor comes off like dry humor when really it's actually not humor at all. He's actually because like everyone else is like cracking jokes and being sarcastic, and he's just like, guys, I'm trying to have an adult conversation right now. Yeah, and there's a lot about him that's really identifying. People saying that he's a fake Spider-Man, and
he is,
and there's so much about like the way that he acts. That and stuff in his storyline that we can get into when we talk about theories and stuff like that just stands out with him against every other character. Now, just saying other good things about this film, love the fact that like Spot was hilarious for me, and then menacing when he came in, but this film was like it's like that he was the villain and we didn't spend hardly any time with the villain. Yet we had tons of menacing problems. We had Miguel creating problems. We had different spider people reacting to that situation. We had so much. Oh my God, Spot's just that's a dope look, like the actual comic look.
No. Spot. They did some really good designs in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like that comic look is actually like really solid. Yeah, it's. And there's so much happening, and yet it's like how I put it, it's like we set this villain up to be huge for the next film, yet we didn't make it feel like, anything was wasted, and we had lots of time to build everything else that's really important that's going to go into this next film. But yeah, don't throw bagels is a lesson taken from this film, and in general, because throwing bagels is definitely not going to turn out well for people. Yeah, no, this movie overall phenomenal, love it, can't wait to watch it again. Yeah, and I know, Umar, you had 2 questions. I forgot what they are at this point.
So what? Who was your favorite character or characters, if you have multiple? Because Tactix had 2, and what was your favorite moment?
I'm gonna have to give it first up to Miles. Like, as much as I enjoyed so many other characters, yeah, I mean, and it's good that like the hero of the story is the one that you like the most. Yeah, like it's just. He's just an awesome character, and he's smart and different and interesting, and I like this version. I like the game version, but I like this version a little bit more because there's a real growth between the first and the second film, where he's gone from being like scared to feeling in charge, and at the end of the last film, he really figured out how to start to come into his own, and he was unafraid when set up against all the spider people, and he immediately stood up against that. And my favorite moment, thank you for putting this up here, is this moment, is the way that this is ending.
Really?
I'm not saying I love the fact that it's a cliffhanger. I love the second I saw the other version of Miles from the other universe. One, I just immediately love the actor for how nuancedly different the two of them were, both in accent, tone. He's more Spanish. You can just feel the difference between these two, and like, how do I put this? And Tags, I think you're going to enjoy this. So we have our Miles, which we know and love, and the one on the right feels like what would happen if Bow Wow came up in a gang. You cannot unsee that now that I said that. He looks like Bow Wow from back in like Magic Mike, or not Magic Mike. What is it? I Want to Be Mike or something like that. The one we want to be Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. It looks like that, but like just hardcore to me. But yeah, the moment and what that means is just like that moment, that little moment is like special to me. But there are so many other things, especially when you got people going frame by frame. By the way, did y'all see Spider Plush and what he did in the movie?
Oh, the one who went for the headshot?
Yeah, Spider Plush went for the headshot. He went to try to take Miles out straight on, full body, full speed at Miles' head and missed. But in all fairness, he is a plush, so maybe he always has to go full force every time.
Because if he like hits him in the face, he'd be like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, they're just so. You know what? It's funny. Someone saw it, like the spider vehicle, and they're like, "What was his canon moment?" And they were showing like a dead like Mercedes Benz.
Oh.
I'm like, so good.
That's hilarious.
So good. Or like, or the T-Rex with the little arms, or like everything. I mean, so many good things. I mean, they even had the Spider-Man from the video game in this thing. If y'all picked up on that, so I'm like,
they also showed him playing the video, like his Ganke playing the video game.
Genki.
Genki, sorry.
Yeah. So much. There's so much, but I'm gonna stop there. Umar, what are your thoughts?
All right, so y'all know that like I gave this a 10 out of 10. For me, I would say that I like, to be honest, it's rare for me not to have anything to be critically reviewing of it. Like everything, I liked everything about this. I was all in, and Darcy can attest. Like I was literally like jumping into like the screen because I was like all in. I was reacting to stuff like it was happening like right in front of me. But I like so like story wise, this was such a multi-layer. Like you guys are talking about like how unique it is, and like how like every frame for me, like the story was rich. It was a rich, nuanced story that like every aspect, including like, you know, the sci-fi aspects, the action aspects, the character aspects, the character relationship aspects, all of them were so heavily nuanced and real. Like this is an animated film, and yet it felt more real than like other live action films. And people have been discussing that like this film has like, you know, yes, the main focus was Miles and also Gwen. Like those were the two stories, the two characters that kind of were front and center, and that Peter Parker was essentially like a supporting character, which I agree with. But what people are saying is they noted it in Into the Spider-Verse, and they agree that it's consistent, that Jake Johnson, basically Nick from New Girl, for those of you who are New Girls fans, Jake Johnson does the best representation of what Peter Parker is from the comics on screen. Tobey Maguire, oh my God, Andrew Garfield, thank you, and Tom Holland. They're all good. Like we watched them, we love them, and all that sort of stuff. But like the true Peter Parker from page to screen adaptation has been Jake Johnson's version. I will say that, like, yes, it's an older version, of course, one that was a little bit more like upset, one that like kind of like made changes in his life. But nonetheless, I will say that I kind of agree with that. I find that it is a very good comic, future comic accurate Spider-Man. And I love the fact that he was a supporting character, because we're getting like the next generation put front and center, and like it's given a really good beginning, or I should say middle at this point. And the fact that Miles is getting so much attention now, and people are actually saying his name, like people say Spider-Man or Peter. Now we're getting people saying Spider-Man, but they're not just saying, oh, and the black Spider-Man was in it. It's like, no, they're talking about Miles. And I like the fact that people are saying Miles now, which is like a subtle change, but I think an important one. And now people also know about Gwen. Like Spider-Gwen is a thing. I'm really glad that the main like the layman Spider-Man fan now knows about Spider-Man, Miguel O'Hara, and you know, introducing all the other Spider-Man like Spider-Punk and Spider-Man India. Okay, Spider-Man India. I will say that I will say that I had some bias against him in concept, because I kind of may have, and I will admit this is probably my conspiracy theory aspect of my brain, but like the fact that Kamala Khan was being killed off in like the same month that they were introducing Spider-Man India to the mainstream, like Spider-Man India has been around for a while, but like I will say as a Pakistani, that kind of frustrated me a little bit. I'm like, oh, so like what, corporate America is like getting rid of a Pakistani character and like giving us a like an Indian Spider-Man to like it's fine with. So there was an element of me being like, I'm not going to like this character no matter what. This guy won me over with one conversation about chai tea. Like I was like, oh, you charming son of a bitch. And then like he was like, and he talked about non-bread. I'm like, he's making good points. And then he's like, my life is perfect. And like, also like, I love you. And then like turns around and gets scared. And he's like, hey, I don't know who your daughter is. And I'm like, fuck it, I like him. I like him. They did it again. So like, I like Spider-Man India. And just don't kill Kamal Khan, bring her back. Anyway. So the fact that they had moments like this and then I will say, as a guy who is big into mythos, who's big into like for example, one of the things I liked about Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was the Illuminati scene, obviously for cameos, but the discussions of what incursions are. That shit was awesome. And then we get this movie that talks about canon events. While in and of itself, that's fascinating to see that like a canon event will like destroy like a universe and all that sort of stuff. I loved that this sci-fi like aspect of this movie is really a multi-layered, nuanced discussion and criticism of people hating on Miles since his inception, saying that's not Peter Parker, that's not how it's supposed to be done. These people should have different storylines. Blah 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 blah. And this could be like even foreseen, because when I was talking to Tactix after the movie, I was telling them that like usually these are the people that are supposed to die in a Spider-Man story. It's like, oh yeah, the first girlfriend's supposed to die, Uncle Ben's supposed to die, and also the captain is supposed to die, and then and also that he's supposed to like overcome this thing, he's supposed to do that thing. And Tactics literally said to me, he's like, yeah, but do they have to do that? And I was like, no, it's just that they do that. And that's what this entire canon event has been discussing. It's like the whole point is that anyone could be Spider-Man, and comic book fans and like obviously the intense fan bases that we all are, you know, growing to like be more afraid of, are against this. They focus on the one thing and one thing only. And this entire film has been about guys, just like Tactics was saying earlier today. It's like, I'm going to do my own thing. And that line has literally been like all over the internet in such an awesome way. And for me, I love this movie because of that. Also, like I will say that I'm not someone who is affected by to be continues. Apparently, I thought I would be, but like talking to you guys and also talking to some of my other friends, and also seeing people online bitching about the fact that how could they not tell me it's going to be it's a part one? I'm like, it was. But anyway, I liked the cliffhanger. The fact that I'm on this cliffhanger makes me happy, weirdly enough, because I mean, like, that's how you leave a to be continued. Like, that's what I'm talking about. And what I loved is that they didn't stop at a moment where like Miles is like scared and they're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? The last time I saw Miles's face is that he had his alter ego having a fist right next to his face, and he looked as serious and ready to fight as the Prowler Miles was from Earth 42. So, and also he put his finger on his bonds. So like that shit is like, yeah, I am ready for part 2, but I'm going to watch this movie at least 5 more times. And also this shit was also really awesome. I loved the other thing about this film that I have to say I freaking loved was character depth. This, like the first movie, they were all 3-dimensional characters for me. I don't know about you guys, but for me, every single one of these guys were 3-dimensional characters. This movie went like psychology level depth for Miles, Gwen, Miguel, and Peter. And I was in for all of it. Like, this was like, just give me more. I'm loving to look at this. I'm loving to analyze this. I'm loving to see this. The fact that and this was in a TikTok that Darcy sent me, where someone was saying that like Miles, it went over Miles' head, and also she said like it also went over a lot of audience members' head when Peter was saying, Miles, hold my baby. He's basically saying, hold the proof that your life makes things better, because technically speaking, Peter having Mayday, or I call her Mayday, or was it Mayday? What was his daughter's name in this one? Let me just quickly check. Well, anyway, I'm gonna call her Mayday Parker. The fact that she exists is technically speaking a breaking of a canon event, but like nothing bad has happened. It's like things have improved. So, and that Miles's mistake, as Miguel calls it, is not a bad thing. And I just love that level of depth. Darcy and I also, like, throughout the week have been like seeing a lot of stuff on TikTok where they are discussing whether this movie was actually secretly racist or what. I'm sorry, Darcy, your reaction was perfect.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
You want to give your 2 cents?
Some people are stupid. Some people just need a reason to like just talk, apparently, because it's like some people be like, "Oh, this movie's racist. There was only 3 white people," and I'm like, there was way more than 3 white people in it. They just didn't take their masks off, okay? Like, like just because you couldn't see the skin. And then some people be like, nah, Miguel, who's half black, or sorry, half Latino, half whatever else he is, Irish, is racist against the other guy who's half Latino, half black. I'm like, because of the shade difference. Yes, shadeism absolutely exists. I don't remember seeing it. Like, I don't remember that being a thing. Like he's like, oh, he was talking down to him and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, because he has this anomaly idea, not because he was like, of all the spider people in the universe, let me go find the one other Latino so I can fuck him up. Like, like this is not this guy's motives. This guy's motives are, I think, well, we'll get into it later, but I think his motives with Miles is not to do directly with what he says it is, but it's definitely not because of his race. That's his stupidity, in my opinion. So yeah, all that race stuff is just more for people to get attention on TikTok.
Yeah, I would say that like there was one criticism that made me pause and go, and it kind of goes towards what you were saying before, Darcy, about Gwen's privilege. They were saying, how did they put it? It was like Gwen Stacy treats Miles like someone who doesn't understand that the world can be racist against Black people,
or at least that she doesn't understand that the context that she had the conversation with the parents is a different context, right?
Well, yeah, but it also showed that, like, for example, like what were they saying? It's like she said the TikTok individual said that I've heard online that people have been comparing Gwen and also Peter as being those white individuals who say they're allies but really are just not willing to go so far as to not lose the status quo and not to lose their own power. And I was like, okay, I haven't thought about that. Let me think about it for a second. I was like, if that were the case, like they were the ones who were they were the only ones speaking up on his behalf. But to be fair, Spider-Punk and who was the Spider Girl who was like an AI?
Don't remember, but let's call it Spider AI.
Okay, Spider AI. Like the two of them who were Black were the only ones who actually directly helped Miles. And I was like, okay, that's a fair point. That may have been somewhat intentional, but like under the radar, which is interesting. Yeah.
And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
I was gonna say another way to look at that is not so much that they were the first ones to help, but they were the first ones to listen, right? And that goes more to the conversation of like where people have their own unknowing biases in that people of different shades immediately or more likely to listen to each other, especially in a room where they're the only ones, because they know that it's very common for them to not be heard. So they're going to hear each other out, right? And allow the other one to question whatever's happening. Especially Spider-Punk is going to allow people to question establishment. The man does not want to be part of the Spider-Verse, but he has a natural whatever this agency type thing is, but he also has a natural like responsibility and probably also foreshadow seeing what's going to happen. So he's like, I'm going to be here to mess things up when things actually start to move in that direction.
What do you think, T, in terms of like this discussion about race and like and that sort of stuff that you've just been hearing from us right now?
I don't understand it at all. I don't get it. I don't understand why we can't just have good things. Like why is it when like a Black Panther movie comes out or a movie about a fucking mermaid stirs up so much controversy amongst people? Why can't it just be a good movie? Why does it have to be filled with all this drama along with it? And yeah, it's dumb. And the thing is, like, when it comes to movies like this where the cast aren't predominantly white, sadly you're going to get a lot of pushback from people, and there's going to be issues pertaining to that of race or so-called lack of representation or whatever the case may be from people, because it it goes against the common norm, and people have a tendency to want to they have an issue with change, and so when they see things changing and like there's more diversity and more inclusiveness being involved, that's when they decide to like speak up and condemn these movies for trying to be original and break the norm. So for me, I try to pay no attention to the criticisms and just enjoy the movie as is. I like all kinds of movies. I don't really look at like, oh, what's the representation here? Because at the end of the day, there's like the fact that there's more representation being put out, especially from Disney, no less. Like, you have, the Black Panthers, you now have Black Spider-Man, you have Black Panther, you have.
I will say that this is Sony.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So no, but I mean, like in terms of Disney,
in general,
right? Like
in general,
in general, like there's more representation being shown, especially from like the superhero side of things, right? Because we haven't seen that we haven't actually seen that, right? Like growing up, my two favorite superheroes were Spider-Man and Batman, both of which are Caucasian, right? So I didn't really have a superhero to look up to that looked like me. I had Meteor Man. Like that, that's pretty much it. Like
I had Aladdin, man. He ain't even a superhero.
Yeah,
he had a lamp.
So let's say a slim pickings for you, bro.
now, legit question: which one was better, Aladdin or Meteor Man? I'm just saying, Umar, you might have actually had the better hand here.
I actually don't know.
I don't even know who Meteor Man is. I have to Google it every time Tactix mentions because I never saw him growing up.
Oh shit, we need a Black Adam for Darcy then, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yo, I barely remember Meteor Man. I just remember his suit. I remember him lifting up a car, and I remember him like smiling. I really saw it when I was young.
I just remember that scene because like anytime he touched like a book or something, he could absorb the knowledge for like 30 seconds or something like that. And then they had this scene where like he's fighting one of the gang lords or whatever, and they touch the Bruce Lee book, and then they start fighting or whatever, and it wears off, and then he's looking for the book again, and he accidentally touches a Vogue book or whatever, and then he throws it to the gangster. And then they both just start voguing together. It was hilarious.
So stupid.
Yeah.
I know, but like, I remember laughing at that one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I ignore criticisms like this, man, because at the end of the day, I don't want to hear any of that shit right now because I just want to enjoy these movies. I want to enjoy movies that are now representing people that look like me, or just people that look like that have culture to it. You know what I mean? So that's why I appreciate, Miss Marvel. Even though it was great. It was great to me to see that, right? And then also, what was the other one? Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi. Yes. Like, so seeing all that kind of stuff is really. It's really refreshing. It's enriching and refreshing, right? And I want to see more of that. And I pay no attention to the people that are like criticizing it because at the end of the day, it's just like because it's breaking the norm. That's why they're so butthurt about it. So it is what it is at the end of the day.
I will say that there's this one TikToker who like right after watching the movie, he like talked about how he didn't like it and like it was all having to do with the fact that like there was like no representation. And then he took a moment to like fix his hair and then continued on. This guy, I don't know how dumb you have to be to like granted he probably did it before everyone else started doing like TikTok videos, but like if he didn't read the room because this guy has been trash talked for 5 days straight on TikTok, and I think I've watched like all of them, and I giggle every single time. I'm like, you dumb, dumb.
Here's the thing, though. For years, again, going back to my point, for years we've grown up with movies that had a bunch of white people and maybe one token black guy, and you don't hear a lot of people complaining. Oh yeah, like it became a joke. It was like, oh, it's the token black guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now the roles are reversed, and it's not even like you still have a lot of representation with Caucasian people in movies, and it's like you have like for every 4 movies like that, you have maybe one like that has cultural representation, and yet people are still complaining, oh, like this movie doesn't have enough representation of white people, and I'm just like, bro, what are you talking about?
Because people don't. I think people are just starting to realize, and they don't like it. Is that when you start doing true equality, that means that some people lose ground.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care.
Yeah. But just to finish off my part, I would say that my favorite character was also Miles. Surprisingly, I found myself really enjoying the Miles and Miguel conflict. I really enjoyed seeing their dichotomy. And I will say that my favorite part, and I think both Darcy and Tactix can attest to this, is when they're explaining the canon event to him, and literally one by one, all the spider people just start circling him, and you're like, okay, A, I love hearing what I'm hearing. B, I love the fact that all the spider people are actually trying to talk to him first, but they know he's not going to like it. And then 3, you have a feeling because you've watched movies your whole life that shit's about to go down. Yeah. It's about to go down. And then when it goes down, you're like, this was awesome.
Yeah. They start closing in on him, and you're just you could feel the tension in that room. You're like, oh man, what is, like, they're just like, they just emerge out of the background, and you're like, wait a minute, there's more coming. Like, what the fuck is going on? And then you see spectacular spider, like all of them. It was crazy.
And the interesting thing is, I remember because like when it was the first time I was watching with Darcy, and it started happening, Darcy was like, here we go. And I was like,
yeah, we know what about to happen.
Yeah. And then when I watched it with Tactics, she's like, yo, they're crowding this motherfucker. I was like,
yeah. And that chase was just epic.
Ooh.
Just so many things.
And you know what I love about that moment too is that he actually had a plan.
Yes.
Like it's not like he was just trying to like piece out and just like think on the fly. It was like, okay, like it was like, because when he was running away, I was like, does this motherfucker even know how to like leave this place? Like what? Like yeah, he's running, but like where is he going? But the whole time he was like this moment where he's like yeah, I let all the Spider-Man out of your facility or whatever, and I was like, yo, this man, he's just like Peter Parker in terms of him being like quick-witted and like just fast on his feet. And yeah, it was a great moment. I like the fact that he is on par with Peter Parker in terms of not only just strength but also intelligence, and is like
with all the Peters.
Yeah. So that just goes to show that like he is a worthy successor to Peter Parker in terms of being Spider-Man. He's not just some like anomaly that just like by chance got bit by a spider and became Spider-Man. Like if I got bit by a spider, like, and I was in this situation, yo, I'd surrender, man. I'm done. Like I don't know how to get out of this place, but it's Miles Morales we're talking about. So
I like how he says in this moment, he's like, well, I got you guys here, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. And I even like how Peter's like, I guess he did figure it out. I guess he did think it out. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is a good part for us to like move on to the next topic. I wanted to ask, how did you guys feel this movie compared to the first one? Like, would you say that you liked it more? Did you find that the story was more compelling? The action scenes more compelling? How would you guys compare the two? And like, which one do you like better? Which one do you think worked better? So, Darcy, let's start with you this time, man. Like, what did you think in comparison of the two?
This is hard because like we can get academic on this, and we can also get on like what we just like, you know, like
I would say that like academically, like that's a whole other podcast, like full. But like, what did you like personally?
The point what I'm gonna say with the academic part is that like technically the second film without the first film is not as good. Right, because they're actually drawing a full trilogy with technically it's one connected story. The first one, yes, ends, but and it has a time gap, and clearly the second one to the third one is not going to have a time gap, but it's so ingrainedly tied together, right? And so that's a very big piece to it. But I like the second film more. and it's how do I put this, like, and I know after I watch the third film, I'm gonna like it. I'm gonna like this part 2 and 3 as like one thing. Like, it's gonna be hard. Someone would be like, yeah, just want to watch 2 without 3. Like, we know it's gonna be like that. And like, now we can watch 1 or we can watch 2, and 2 is 2 films. Okay. That's how it is. And the first film's amazing. Like, I love the first film. Like, but I've always been a fan of make it a little grittier, make it a little bit more real. Like, there's always things I will love about, and then you're gonna hate me right now, but there's always things I like aesthetically about some things that Zack Snyder always did, right? Because there's always a little bit of groundedness. Now, I'm not talking about the rest of the story.
I'm not going to fault his aesthetic. He can create a good aesthetic. It's
a good aesthetic, and it's also kind of going to Christopher Nolan as well. But I always liked it being a little bit darker. I always like to see, like, the one thing I loved, like, you know, the Batman anime series and Justice League Unlimited, right? But you always had a little level of, like, it would get dark in concept, but you never really always, because whatnot, drove something to a point where you actually really feel like this is actually getting really dark. And I like that this movie is adding a level more darkness to it. And I just hope that third one, I'm not saying it's all dark. I just want there to be like some really intense moments that make you go like, holy crap, like we went there and then came out of that, right? There's like when we see Miles seeing the other Miles in that situation, it is literally like, if you don't handle yourself, you're not gonna live. And you feel like that's a thing, right? You feel like this other Miles is like Denzel Washington in American Gangster, or the other one I'm trying to think of that I can't think of right now. Training Day, right? Like, you feel like this is not the Miles to play with, and you better see that part of you now. You better see that part of you that can handle that situation, yet retain who you are at the same time, the good side of you that this one didn't get for some reason.
So I was thinking about this the other day, because like we were talking about the canon event about like Miles losing his dad, aka Captain, losing the police captain. But Miles was never supposed to be bitten, technically speaking. It was supposed to be the Prowler Miles that you were just talking about, who like has gotten like with Denzel Washington style. So he was supposed to be the original Miles, but this one got taken out, which got bitten and thus caused the death of the first Spider-Man. So technically speaking, wouldn't Miles' dad be safe? Because the canon event wasn't supposed to come for him, because he was never supposed to be bitten.
Yeah. Are we going into theories for the third film at this point? Because I'm holding back. Okay.
Sorry. We'll go to T and then we'll go. So T. Comparing Across the Spider-Verse to Into the Spider-Verse, where does your heart lead, and which one did you love the more?
So, going into the first movie, I had a little bit of resistance, only because, well, I already alluded to this earlier, but
right,
you know, Peter Parker was my original Spider-Man, right? And so when I knew nothing about Miles Morales, I had heard references here and there. I know he showed up in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, but I never even watched that show, so I really didn't know much about Miles Morales. And mainly the main reason why I even went to go watch the movie, well, two reasons. One, it's a superhero movie, so I'm obviously going to check it out. But also, two, because, you know,
black,
it's like...
y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all.
Right, I had to...
I wasn't ready. That scared me. I'm over here writing notes for my theory side. All of a sudden, like, damn.
But yeah, so I was like, okay, Black Spider-Man, I'm in. I'm all for it. So I ended up watching it and really, really enjoyed the first film. I only saw it once I think in theaters, and then I never really revisited it again, not discrediting it or anything like that. I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah.
And then watching this film, loved this film, and it makes the first film 10 times better because they really pay attention to detail, and it makes you go back and like rewatch the film. Because I remember like watching the first film and you see the spider coming down and it's glitching and you're like, what? Wait, what the fuck is up with that? But then I mean, I guess they kind of like alluded to the fact because like Kingpin was messing around with something or whatever. So like I always just found like it was kind of weird that the spider was glitching, and then now it makes a lot more sense because of that callback. And then the fact that it had the 42 on there as well, and then there was a 42 in a couple of other shots and everything. And actually, interesting little tidbit here. There is a guy on TikTok who pointed out the fact that he was saying that you heard about this, right? The Jackie Robinson, yeah. So I found that to be interesting about how 42 was the number of the first black baseball player, Jackie Robinson. That was his number. And so they use that as a reference to, I don't know if this was intentional or just.
Oh, no, it was 100% intentional.
So yeah, just the little details that they include in these movies, I really appreciate. Like they really did their homework, and yeah, they put so much love and effort into it, and it really shows. And like the second one improves on the first one, but also makes the first one 10 times better, which was amazing to begin with. So yeah, I really enjoyed both of them, but I'd have to say the second one is my favorite out of the two so far. And I like, just similar to what Darcy was saying, I know that the third one is probably going to be even better, but when you're looking at it, when you look at it as I can't look at it as three individual movies. I'm going to have to just look at it as a whole and just be like, this is one complete film.
Like the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and it's all just fantastic, right? It's like this, like again, the way this one ended, the second one ended, it was kind of like it felt like half. I mean, it is half technically, but it felt that way, right? So I'm like, I know that they're saving a lot of the big epic moments for the final film because it's like the final countdown, the last hurrah type of thing. Because
it's the final countdown.
Yeah, man. So,
so I'm excited. You put it there. I had to.
All right, so thanks, T. Like, so I'll just quickly point out that, like, for me, I will say that I will find this movie franchise is kind of going the way of like a Full Metal Alchemist franchise for me. I loved the Full Metal Alchemist first anime that they came out with, and when they said they're going to do like a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I was like, there's no way it could top it. Not only did it shadowed the first one. For me, this movie, like Into the Spider-Verse, I'll say I probably laughed more into the Spider-Verse and also harder. But for this one, I was more emotionally invested and was like I loved it more. Also, I would say that I didn't think that this movie would be able to exceed the moment of What's Up Danger in the first movie. Like when he leaped off the building with the song playing What's Up Danger, and he like webs for the first time and like catches up and like, you know, wears his costume for the first time. I wanted to start like jumping off buildings, like, you know, shooting out webs sort of thing. Like that moment had me like ready to jump out and like go into action. This movie did that with like, and then some. In like the part that I was just telling you guys, like I was like when they're all started crowding him, and then like when they're all fighting and he's like dodging and he's like fighting Miguel, I was just in my chair like this, and Darcy could attest because he had just told me to calm down. So like this movie had me like just all in. So like I didn't think that was possible, but this scene, especially when he's upside down, he's going towards the sky. I love this shot. I will always love this shot. But like this movie has created like multiple shots that are as much as I love this one. So That's my answer right there. Like the first one, still a great movie. I still love watching it, but I am so glad that there's a second one because now I can like continue to enjoy it. And to be honest, Tactix, like I'm going to hold into like Spider-Verse like marathons to watch all three.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, like when the Beyond comes out. And that's a great time for us to segment into the next one. Because I see Darcy, you've been writing stuff down. So I'm gonna jump to you first because you actually got stuff written down. But what are your predictions for what's going to happen in Beyond the Spider-Verse? And like what do you think the full impact of this Spider-Verse franchise is gonna have on people?
First off, before we get into that, I cannot wait for some butter chicken, some naan, some lamb vindaloo, and some pizza, and definitely some peppermint chai at the end. While we watch all three of those films, because
yes,
and absolutely yes, chai. We need chai. Like, we need chai. And did I say naan bread there? Slap me. I think I said it.
I feel like after this film, chai is gonna be all sold out, bro.
I also feel a lot of people are going to be correcting Starbucks after this. Is like...
Yeah, and Timmy's. Okay, so getting into predictions for the third film. My number one thing is I think that this whole two-parter film is to actually break the concept that, and to kind of set up for like the future. I think they're going to set something up very big. Not as in for setting up for a film, but setting something up that will change the writing of Spider-Man. That they're trying to make a statement that canon events that they named in here are actually not necessary to be Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. And I think they're doing that through Miguel making this definition, creating a thing called the canon event, and it's actually a lie. It's not real.
Because they called it a model.
Yeah,
the AI jumped in. Is like that's what the model says.
Yeah, and I think that he is influencing all that because he is hiding what actually erased his universe, and it wasn't what he says it is.
I think it was an incursion. I think he caused an incursion.
Yeah, and I think that whatever Miles is inside the multiverse is actually his antagonist, and he is actually going against, he's trying to eliminate him in the process. And somehow, I don't know, but Spot might be the actual thing that is the real problem, but Miguel is thinking it's Miles. And
interesting.
And they're not seeing it completely properly, and so I think that's going to set up for we're going to find out what Miguel's motive is, and the conclusion is going to be that Miles will have to stop some kind of canon event for things to move forward, which I think will make the bigger conversation in the Spider-Man world is that, like, does he always need to have an Uncle Ben die? Do you always need a tragedy to be that hero? And something will happen that it won't. And it will change that part of being what Spider-Man stories are about. And I think it'll be a beautiful thing, right? I think it'll open up and help to make the future, whatever new Spider person or thing that we want to create down the line, some new Spider-Man stories or whatever, more interesting, because we won't hit the same trope, right? Where we're like, and where's the Uncle Ben? I'm just waiting for it, right? You know, and it's not. And then it changed the dynamic. Number 2 is that the mother's gonna die. I'm sorry to say this to hurt everybody, but they are foreshadowing, or they are hinting. How to put this? They are setting it up and trying to get you to not look at it by doing all
red herring.
Red herring, doing all this stuff with the father. And the father was lost in the other universe. And so in the other universe, Miles becomes a villain and loses his father. So in this universe, Miles is a hero, so he loses his mother. But he is I don't know. Even though I just said like he's going to stop a canon event and it's going to change things, I also kind of feel like there's going to be something related to like the whole fact that it's like you're going to stop the father but you lose the mother. I don't know, something like that. It's just
like a new canon event.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I just know I feel like these two things are going to happen where there's like it's going to make some interesting statement in the idea that you can't win everything, but you should still try. And it's not wrong to stop certain things because you're not a Spider-Man if you just sit back and not do anything.
Yeah, let things happen.
And yeah, that is just going to be really strong. And I there was one more and I kind of forgot what it was, but there was something with one of these other characters that I think was going to be some interesting stuff that was going to happen. There was a foreshadowing in that hallucination or vision that he saw where all the spider people were like dead on the ground. And I think there's going to be something really interesting with that, but I can't remember what my thought was. So anyways, I'll leave it there. What are you guys' theories?
How about you, T? Like any predictions?
Yeah. I guess I'll start with the mom theory. I agree with Darcy. I think the mom is definitely going to bite the bullet on that one. Just because of all the foreshadowing, they really honed in on having her kind of be the front and center. Like the dad kind of took a back seat in this movie in comparison to the first one, and that's
3 months. Sorry.
Yeah, so they've been dwelling a lot on the mom, and I think just because of the parallels between how Prowler the Earth 42 Miles, how he lost his dad in his universe. I think Miles is going to lose his mom in his the original Miles is going to lose his mom in
1610.
1610, yeah. My next theory is that I think at some point we're going to see Tom Holland and Beyond the Spider-Verse, Beyond the Spider-Verse. I think at the end though, and I think the way that they could potentially do it is that they're also going to use this as a way to introduce a live action version of Miles. They may not use the same actor going forward when they start to do an actual movie, but they're gonna find, because beyond the universe, I feel like they're gonna go beyond the animated version and go more into live action because of the fact that they introduced Donald Glover into this universe as his actual live action self.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the movie, it's gonna be either as a post credit or something. They're gonna find a creative way to kind of introduce Tom Holland as a cameo, and also as a way of kind of establishing who the live action Miles Morales is going to be. Because I mean, I feel like that, I think they mentioned that that's the next direction that they want to do after they close this chapter of the animated version. They want to start to introduce Miles as a live action character. And they've already mentioned him in in the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies already. So yeah, I think that's going to be a thing. I think Miguel is going to get his own movie eventually because with all these animated movies doing because of this movie doing so well, I think they want to capitalize on, toning on some of the other characters. Like they might even do a Spider-Man noir. They might do. I don't know how
they're doing a female Spider-Man spinoff. So the fact that like Miguel is being talked about this much, and also the character was like Spider-Man 2099 wasn't an unpopular character. Like, and also they didn't just create him. Like he has a comic book history. People grew up with him. Granted, he didn't have anything recently, but like I agree with you, T. Like this is Oscar definitely brings the character alive.
Yeah, I would actually, and we only saw him for a brief moment, and I'll admit that the animated show wasn't all that great, but I would love to see another shot at the Spider-Man Unlimited.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they did show him for a second. Like he tried to tackle Miles, didn't he?
Yeah. I remember watching that show. The suit was dope, but the show itself just wasn't that great.
That was the nanotech suit, right?
The nano, yeah. So it reminded me kind of like of Batman Beyond. So yeah, I found that really cool. Let's see, Miles and I don't think the Miles from Earth 42 is a villain. I think he's he's an anti-hero. I think he became the Prowler as a way of like defending his city once his dad died. I think he's just he's kind of like a
good theory.
He's like a more aggressive he's like an anti-hero basically, right? And like
the Punisher stuff.
Like yeah. And I think just because of the fact that like Miles showed up and like it's like, yo, who is this guy? I don't think he's actually trying to like contend against Miles. He's just kind of like iffy about him because there's also there's a shot near the end of the movie where you see like Scorpo and like there's like nods to all these other like Shocker and like all these other villains or whatever, and it seems like they all have their own kind of establishment. So it's almost like they've taken over.
They're a cartel. They're essentially the cartel.
Yeah, so I think what he's doing is he's like working underground as like an anti-hero trying to take down the establishment, and it's only leading us to believe that Miles is a villain and he's going to be a problem for our Miles when really he's just
that's dope.
Yeah.
Oh, that goes really well against the like proving Miguel wrong, because even without the Spider-Man, he still ends up becoming the same thing.
Exactly, just in a different form.
I love that theory, bro.
Yeah. So yeah, those are my. Do I have another one? No, those are my theories.
I need to get something for this moment because of that theory.
Okay. Man, he legit had to go get something for that.
Because I just think there's way too many antagonists right now, and I honestly think that this Miles is going to be part of the team to take down Spot and everyone else.
Yeah,
I'm going to big screen for a second. Tactics. That's a microphone. I just dropped it for you. Mic drop. That was good stuff.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't have a theory outside of what you guys have come up with. Yeah, like with Tactics, you gave me a new one that like I'm not going to lie. I think I'm going to adopt this theory.
Yeah, I'm all in on that.
I actually want to rewatch it just to see if like how truthful that is. That's because like I feel there's stuff I missed that might actually prove you right.
Mm-hmm. I also wonder, but it's not like a big thing, and it wouldn't necessarily like be strong. But we saw Spider-Man from the video game, and I was wondering, like, what if we see Miles from the video game? Like, what if there was some interesting interaction there? It's not as strong as like the Earth 42 and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I just like because I'm like, you showed one, the other one exists. Why haven't we seen him? Is that something that's going to pop up in the next one? Is this going to further the same idea Tactics has, where we have this other Miles that's also there as well for something? I don't know, just like something that kind of came to mind, because there's a bunch of other Spider people that they were talking about. I can't remember which one that they also didn't bring in. There's a lot of people saying like, you know, if any of these Spider-Men were here, they would absolutely have Miles's back, and we haven't seen them. Like Tom Holland being one of those individuals, right? Who would just immediately
I can see Tom Holland doing it,
right? Andrew Garfield's character, you know, Tobey Maguire's character, like they would have his back. Like we wouldn't have sided with Miguel, right?
No.
And so it's just you know, I just find it interesting, and you know, I wonder if we'll just get the Miles Morales from the video game, not for like a big thing, but for like a small thing. Just in, I don't know, just kind of like what something I've been thinking about, but not a strong theory, just a, you know, interesting thought.
Yeah. Just to quickly put, like, this is not a theory. This is more like what I feel the impact of this franchise is. I found myself like I'm someone who very much is someone who follows the rules, but also tries to be critical thinking at the same time. And I find that this film is kind of trying to bring forward that yes, it's important to like do law and order and also like, you know, follow the rules, but also not to be beholden by it, and not like, because a lot of people who try to be pragmatic are allowing things bad to happen in order to like further the greater good. But like I feel this film is kind of showing is, and I think both of you have said it at one point or another in this podcast, is like Spider-Man wouldn't just accept the death because they're supposed to save people, not let people die.
Yeah.
And so like when you start being pragmatic the way Miguel is, and also in a way Doctor Strange is, where you've made mistakes, and so you make rules to kind of prevent that from happening, you're actually allowing bad things to happen for the sake of a greater good. But like, how good could that greater good be? Like, you're saying it under the guise of being pragmatic. And I think I like the fact that this, by like arguing canon events and arguing like timelines and stuff, you're having that discussion. People are having that discussion, and like, granted, like people are going down the racial direction for the film, but like at the same time, I have seen people bring up conversations about how stories should be done, how characters should be done, what people should be doing. Like, listen to Miguel, don't listen to Miguel. Spider-Punk being a rebel and people not liking him at first, but then actually like saying like he's actually like a good guy. Gwen, like the fact that like she went home after running away and like, was able to fix things that she thought were unfixable. And it's like, well, like being true to yourself and versus going along with what people tell you, like what our models tell you, not what is true, but like what the models predict. So it's like smart people thinking they know everything, and so therefore are deciding to let things happen. And it's like, well, no, you should still be trying to do the right thing, because sometimes the pragmatic thing or the quote unquote smart thing is overshadowing the right thing. So like, I like that this franchise is kind of having that discussion, and they're using Miles and Peter as saying that, hey, you can have both. And the fact is like Spider-Man can do both. I'm going to do my own thing. It's a leap of faith. Like all of these things, I love the fact that they're just making people momentarily question or momentarily like resist or like accept these sorts of like these concepts. So that's what I think I love about this franchise. And also, finally, I just want, if they're going to do a live action, and hopefully Sony knows how to do good live actions, but when the time they decide to do a Black Spider-Man, but if they're going to do like Miles Morales, I want them to get Miles Brown from Blackish to play him. Not Junior, the other one.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, cool. So, all right. So I'm going to, unless you guys have any last thoughts, I'm going to like jump into our final topic.
Let's do it.
All right. Moving on to our final topic. So I've been seeing this all over the internet. Let's rate all the Spider-Man movies that are out. Now, Darcy has spoken.
How many numbers are we going to be ranking?
We only going to focus on, I'm going to give it by 13, but like y'all can stop listening after
it's only 10 for me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, fine. We'll stick to. So we're not counting Venom. We're not going to count Venom and Let There Be Carnage, and we're not going to count Morbius, because I included those and I put them in that order: Venom with Carnage, and then Morbius, because
they're not Spider-Man films. There's no Spider-Man in those films, so no.
Yeah. I remember when I sent that, I sent you that message, and you got triggered, bro, and I apologize. On live TV, I apologize for triggering you.
I was like reading this list. I was like, okay, I can get on with this list. Like, what the hell is that?
Okay, so I will go first to give you guys like some time. So we're going to be counting every film about that has Spider-Man in it. So, Spider-Man is like the main one. So we're not going to be counting any of the MCU films with like Avengers and stuff. We're just going to do Spider-Man alone ones. So for me, the top spot is going to Across the Spider-Verse, the ones that we just watched. It's got to be my number one. My second one is a close second, is Into the Spider-Verse, aka the one like the prequel to Across the Spider-Verse. My number 3 is Spider-Man No Way Home. I just love that movie. It has its faults, but I don't give a fuck. I love it. And then my next one is my number 4 is Spider-Man Homecoming. I originally had Spider-Man 2 in that spot. But I actually, a friend of mine kind of like made me realize that I kind of put that a little too high because I did rewatch it and I was like, it doesn't hold up as much as I remember it did, but it's still really good. But nonetheless, so Spider-Man Homecoming. Then I have Spider-Man 2 as my number 5. That's the one with Doc Ock, Alfred Molina for his first appearance. Yeah, like I would say MJ was definitely a problem in that movie for me. MJ and the entire franchise was a problem for me. But nonetheless, that movie was dope as fuck, and I still love it a lot. And like Doc Ock was still great. Then Spider-Man Far From Home was my number 6. That was one of the Spider-Man Home films that just didn't hit as hard for me, even though I really like Jake Gyllenhaal and I loved his depiction of Mysterio. For some reason, it just didn't connect with me as much as I would like. After that, my number 7 is Amazing Spider-Man, the first Andrew Garfield movie. It had its problems, but I loved Andrew Garfield. I loved the action sequences. I really loved the chemistry between Gwen and Peter. That shit was magic, just magic. After that, the first Spider-Man, because like as Tactix and I have learned, that movie is corny as fuck when you rewatch it in the modern age, but it's still a fun watch, but it's corny as fuck. And it still gave us J. Jonah Jameson. So, like, and then after that, number 9 is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Because while that movie had some truly low lows, it had some fantastic highs. But the fact that like it was basically like an up and down scale that was just too like steep of a decline, it hurt. It still gave me. It also hurt in another fashion at the end when they killed Gwen. That still haunts me to my day. And then after that is number 10, Spider-Man 3, because fuck that movie.
let's be honest here. All of our 10s is Spider-Man 3. Like we all know that answer. And we're pretty much almost all equal probably on the first one, almost, right? Well, number 10, unanimous.
All right. So T, let's start with you, man. What is your top 10? What is your 10 Spider-Man?
Okay.
Ranking?
All right. So number 1, and this one wins by like a dick hair, but it is No Way Home. Like that for me.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow!
yeah,
Wow!
I thought it was gonna be Into the Spider-Man.
Nah,
So did I. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's still No Way Home. Like honestly, that shit was an event for me. Like it gave me nostalgia. It gave me some really cool moments, like the spider sense. Like when he goes under, but he can still control it. Like that shit was cool. And I was waiting for spider sense shit like that to happen. And obviously like they've been building up the whole Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield thing for a minute, and it paid off in the most incredible way possible. The ending was great. And then at the end of all of that, they give me what I wanted, and it's a return to form. So we get to see Spider-Man without the Iron Man tech, and he's just back doing his regular thing. He has to create his own web shooters, and obviously we don't see any of that stuff, but it alludes to the fact that it's Spider-Man the way we grew up and knowing him for, right?
Yeah.
And so that was good, and that was a great payoff. We had a really deep emotional moment with the death of Aunt May. So yeah, it gave me a lot, man.
That broke me.
Gave me a lot. So like honestly, like yeah, that one takes the top spot. But like by a dick hair.
I hear you.
Number 2 is Across the Spider-Verse. I love this movie. I thoroughly had a great time watching this. Again, just the ending, man. And I'm not saying it was a bad ending. It's just for me, I was just like, yo, it left me wanting more, which is a good thing, but felt incomplete. Intentional, but yeah. So yeah, that's the reason why it's number 2. Number 3 is I was conflicted but I think I'm gonna go with Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
This list is unexpected ever. Man, Spider-Man 3 is going to be like number 5 at this point.
Spider-Man 2, and here's why. Because when I think of top fight moments in superhero history, with the exception of like that of like Infinity War and Endgame and even Winter Soldier, that train fight still is embedded in my brain. Like that fight is phenomenal to me.
You know, the interesting thing is, so someone brought up the fact that, like, in terms of canon events, as they talk about in Across the Spider-Verse, that had an independent canon event that was only in films when he stopped when he basically started the whole like stopping the train.
Yeah.
And they've kind of started replicating that as a result. So technically speaking, it's interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah, and I like the element of him like losing his powers and after dealing with the existential crisis and everything like that. That was interesting. So yeah, I had a good time with it. I mean, the third act kind of fell apart for me a little bit, but overall, I really enjoyed Spider-Man 2. I think it's still a great, solid film. And then number 4 is Into the Spider-Verse.
Thank God. I was like, dude, you can't put that in number 5. Come on.
Yeah. No, Into the Spider-Verse. Again, so those ones are interchangeable. So like Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man 2. But I enjoyed them both. Number 5, I'm gonna give it to Spider-Man 3. And then
wait, what?
No, I'm fucking with you. Far From Home was number 5. For me, really enjoyed that. Like you, Darcy, I enjoyed Jake Gyllenhaal's portrayal of Mysterio. I like what he brought to the table.
I said that.
I didn't say shit.
Oh, sorry, Umar. My bad. I meant Umar. Sorry. Yeah, I agree with you on what you said about Jake Gyllenhaal. I enjoyed him as Mysterio. So number 5. Number 6, Homecoming.
Interesting.
I liked Homecoming, but again,
Michael Keaton.
Yeah, it was great to see him back or him back in that kind of capacity, doing being in a superhero film and everything. My only problem, and I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, I just didn't like the Iron Man light, like Iron Man Jr. type of thing, right? Like I wanted to see more of Spider-Man and not like an Iron Man protege. So that to me, like Homecoming always kind of bothered me in that regard. And then it just like 1 and 2 just never felt like Spider-Man movies to me, if I'm being completely honest. Right. So, yeah. Number 7 is The Amazing Spider-Man. Initially, when I saw this film, I had issues with it just because, I liked Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I thought like his quips were very, very solid and to the character of Spider-Man. His Peter Parker, on the other hand, this motherfucker was way too cool. And I had been saying that since day one. And everyone else has been saying it too. And so it still remains true. Like he was just too cool to be Peter Parker, in my opinion. So I don't think they quite got the character right in that regard. I mean, you kind of see it more lean into the role of Peter Parker a little bit more in No Way Home. But overall, I enjoyed the movie. It was cool to see the lizard and that whole portrayal. I found that to be really interesting. So yeah, that was number 7. Number 8, the original Spider-Man. Like Umar said, it does not hold up well, but it is still a fun movie. And if it weren't for that movie, we probably wouldn't have these other Spider-Man movies that we have today. So we have to give credit where credit is due. Just like with, the original Batman, 89, you know what I mean? Yeah. It paved the way for the animated Batman series and all of these other Batman films that have come after it, right? So we got to give credit where credit is due. So Spider-Man, yes, like that, it is what it is. Number 9 is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This movie was pretty trash, but it had some cool, like, good moments. You know what I mean? You know what I really like about this, like like this version of Spider-Man and this retelling of Spider-Man. I like the element of like I might be alone in this, but like the whole fact of like how his dad was involved in creating the radioactive spider, and he purposely altered the DNA so that like only his DNA would, like, if the spider bit anyone else, it would only have to be his DNA in order for it to take effect. I found that to kind of be an interesting element because just by chance or like by fate, it just so happened that Peter Parker was in the right place at the right time and he got bit by a spider that only he could get powers from. So I found that to be a pretty cool element. I know that's from the first movie or whatever, but I think they actually revealed it in the second one, right?
In the unreleased credit, or unreleased
right
scene.
Right. So yeah, I mean, again, this movie was trash, but they had a lot of cool moments. Again, the character development, the love storyline, like that. Like Umar, you talked about it in the first film, but it's palpable in the second.
So powerful in the second one.
And I mean, it's like life imitating art because they actually were dating, so it was like very, very authentic and translated really well. But yeah, seeing that, and then it pays off at the end when Gwen Stacy dies, and you actually feel it. Like, I mean, you feel the impact because that's such a visceral thing to see, and the sound that it makes when her head cracks the pavement, but also just like the emotion that end scene conveys, where like Andrew Garfield is like literally like just holding his dead girlfriend in his arms and he's just completely destroyed. And yeah, like that was such a fantastic moment that I'll always remember. So yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then of course number 10, Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3. I mean, there's so much wrong with that film. Like the whole Venom thing was like Topher Grace as Venom. That still this day makes no sense to me.
Those teeth, man. Those teeth.
Yeah.
Oh
like yeah. I just
it's a neutered Venom.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my list. That's,
all right.
Yeah.
Darcy.
Oh right, you motherfuckers better buckle in because it's about to be y'all gonna get triggered.
Oh shit!
So coming in at number 1 is going to be Across the Spider-Verse. I don't think I need to add commentary because we just talked about it for
pretty much. Yeah.
for like an hour and 40 minutes at this point. So you know I like it. Into the Spider-Verse. Oh, I forgot. Actually, sorry, I jumped too quickly. I wanted to say that I'm also listing this based off of how I would want to watch these again if I was like going over and you're like, all right, we're going to watch it. This would be like the order. If you were like, the order in my mind I would go through. If you're like, nah, I don't really want to watch Across the Spider-Verse right now, then this is how I go down my list, right? And why not? All right, not about like, we're not talking academics here. Okay, just to be clear. Okay, so Across the Spider-Verse number 1, Into the Spider-Verse number 2. These movies, hands down, watch them whenever somebody wants to put them on. They're solid. And the thing I love about them is, of all the Spider-Man movies, and I harp on this all the damn time when I talk about movies in general, best world building. The one thing I really don't like that happens in a lot of movies is the over-the-shoulder shot in North America, and I don't feel the freaking world, right? Like, you get one actor filming something without even the other actor there. And I'm like, how are we going to get good acting when it's just like one person talking to like a random stunt person and then another day another person's doing it and we just go and edit it together and make it look good. Like that shit bothers me. Okay. Number 3, we're going with Spider-Man No Way Home. Okay. Like Tactix said, epic event, has so much going for it. Overall, super solid. I'm never gonna say no. Don't put that on if you say you want to put that on. That's okay. Clear given. And this top 3, this is obvious for a lot of people. They all solid. Again, any one of us, if we said to each other, "Yo, you want to watch No Way Home?" Of course, put that shit on, right? Yeah. You say Cross Spider-Verse? Of course, put that shit on.
Yeah, even though like Tactix put it as number 4, I can still see him, but like, yeah, let's watch this.
Absolutely. Well, the reason I said top 3 is because once I get into 4, this is where y'all motherfuckers gonna start getting triggered with me. Number 4, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
I can see that.
Okay.
I told you I like the darker edge of things. And Andrew Garfield, I won't disagree. He was too cool for a true Peter Parker. I still fucking liked him as Peter Parker. I don't care. Like, fuck me, fight me.
What did he say?
I messed that up.
Yeah.
Fuck it, fight me.
Oh man.
Oh,
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I believe the vowel you were looking for was you, my brother.
Can I get a you? Can I get a you? So fight me over it. I liked him as Peter Parker, and I loved just this movie. When I saw this movie come out, I had the biggest hopes for the long franchise with Andrew Garfield. Captain Stacy in this, like, what's Stacy? It was Captain Stacy, right?
Yep, it was Captain Stacy.
Yep. When he died and on the rooftop and everything like that, and the cinematics, the shots, the world, like this felt more connected to the world and than all the other live actions for me, like in terms of how they did their shots.
Yeah.
Phenomenal film for me. Absolutely loved it. I will always want to rewatch it. Okay. Now we get number 5, Homecoming. Okay. Homecoming. Great film. Loved it. I love this introduction of like Tom Holland. And I was super enjoying it. Completely the opposite for me, right? Of like the Amazing Spider-Man. But I really, really enjoyed it. Umar looking concerned over here.
Not concerned. I'm intrigued. I'm trying to figure out what your next one's gonna be.
Yeah, y'all motherfuckers is not ready. For number 6, Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Interesting.
Umar is looking not happy right now.
Really?
So, what are your thoughts?
I can understand it.
I can get behind it because like I said, like when the movie hit, it hit like they have like Oscar level scenes in that film.
This movie, it took me 2 weeks to mourn the death of Gwen. Like, it took me 2 weeks because when I watched it, because they were actually in a real relationship between these two films, their chemistry was so real that for me, I was feeling my own relationship in their acting. And then when she died, it hit me so hard because I felt like I lost my own partner from that film. Like, it hit me so deep because that chemistry, the nuances in their the way they interacted, you cannot fake that.
Yeah,
that is you cannot pretend and act your way through it. There was just things in the way when like they hadn't seen each other for a minute and they were interacting before they went to Times Square.
At the park. Oh,
yeah, and the awkward little things. I was like, that is what happens when two people actually dearly love each other and are awkward, but are so excited to be around each other again and don't know what to do, and they're overcome with emotion. And it's so fidgety, and that's really hard to do. And it's in a real space, in a real world, where you see the two actors actually acting off each other, no over-the-shoulder shots for bullshit. It was so real. There was also the fights, like that Times Square.
Oh yeah, that's
with
true.
The lightning.
That was smart.
Even the final one where he's fighting the Green Goblin and Electro, even though there's stupidity in how we got there, it was the people who did the CGI on that work. They went to work on it. Like that's still some of the best.
No, the choreo was on point.
And some of the best CGI work we've ever received. Everything in this film was set up to be an amazing film. Unfortunately, she only just got in there and forced too much to happen. But the people executing it didn't lose love for what they were making. They were put into a situation that they shouldn't have been put into, and they were forced to stuff things in. Because all the stuff that was the weakest, even visually, was clearly the stuff they had to shove in at the last minute. right? Like the rhino at the end, clearly even from the visual started to look like it wasn't even done in the same time frame as everything that was core to the story that actually was really good. The scene where he like saw Harry after so many years felt like something that they had filmed after the film was done, right? And they had to start splicing certain things in. But anyways, I digress. When this movie was at its highs, it was so high for me that it overrode its bads, that I still enjoy this film and will rewatch it. And especially with that scene that they didn't include with the father, like, honestly, if I almost want to one day sit down with Amazing Spider-Man 2, just do a re-edit, cut some stuff that we don't have to see, add the things in we didn't get to see. And I honestly think it would be like a better film for a lot of people than how they remember it, just by virtue of cutting a couple things out we don't need to see. Anyways, that was my number 6. Coming in at number 7, Spider-Man 2.
Number 7.
You cannot believe I just put Amazing Spider-Man 2 over Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
I do dearly love the original movies, but they didn't hold for me as much as some of the newer stuff. And Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 2 has some amazing stuff in it. Obviously, it's a great film overall. I just, when I think about what I connect with more, it's just a little bit different for me. Okay. Then we're coming with Far From Home. It's a good film. It's honestly my least favorite, hands down, from the 3. And I did like Mysterio, but there was some stuff that I just, like, in the film, I just didn't enjoy as much. So some of the fight scenes, some portions, but it was really still an amazing film. I really enjoy a lot of it. This is a stacked list. I mean, overall, let's just take the first 7. Even if you don't like Amazing Spider-Man 2, this is a stacked list of films. Yeah. Right? So when something hits this low on the list, it's not because it's like bad. It's just because the list is stacked. Right?
Okay.
Then we got Spider-Man 1, and we got Spider-Man 3.
Okay. I can understand why.
I mean, there's no guess on Spider-Man 3.
It's really interesting. So, like, the top choices, relatively, Darcy, you and I are similar, but for the lower choices, Tactix and I are similar.
Yeah, that middle range.
That is interesting. That is interesting. Okay, so for those of you watching, please in the comment section put down your ranking for the Spider-Man movies that you loved from number 1 to number 10. If you want to throw in Venom, the Venom movies, and also Morbius, because you apparently like those more than other Spider-Man films. No, don't put that down. Like we don't need that.
Even Morbius cut Spider-Man out.
Oh my God! Yeah. All right. Yeah. So anyway, So we're done our agenda, and I forgot what I was going to say. So I'm going to pass back to you, T, for closing arguments or closing remarks.
All right. Well, this will do it for another edition of the Geeky Bros Podcast. We want to thank you guys all for watching or for listening wherever you are. I'm your boy Tactix.
Yo, it's just Darcy here. Fight me over Amazing Spider-Man 2.
or fuck him.
No.
I love that we got that on camera. Okay. So,
Didn't happen. Don't know what you're talking about.
This is Big Geek Umar. Live long and prosper, all. Live long and prosper, y'all. We won't see you next week, but we potentially might be seeing you the week after that. So we'll get back. We'll make an announcement otherwise. But yes, have a great week. Leave a like, please, like, favorite, or subscribe, and also leave comments. And we'll catch you next time.
Wait, we're not here next week?
Aren't you guys both away?
I'm not here.
Don't you have an exam?
I mean, in the morning.
Okay, never mind. So we actually might be here next week. Never mind. We will be here next week.
At least 2 of them.
We did not rehearse this.